Look at all these seedlings looking so much better after a little bit of fertilizer. I mean, these have literally gotten 8 times bigger this week. These are my ground cherries. It looks so good. Peppers are all looking so much better. They're darker green. They're just obviously not deficient. In the 1 week since I fed those seedlings, they have grown more than they grew like for the month before that, so that's really good. Also took the shade cloth off. As I said, I think my seedlings were stunted for a number of reasons, and right now some fertilizing and making sure they're getting enough light is doing the trick. And it's been very warm, which has helped too. Had a lot of comments lately on the yellow flowers that grow in our field, and several people have said to watch out because it's whatever this is deadly to cows and horses. And I actually don't know exactly what that is, but whatever it is not the flower that's deadly to cows and horses. They're not like just chomping down on that stuff, but we've even mowed in the past, and obviously then that dries up, and if this were deadly, we would have dead cows and horses. But I've also seen this stuff in a lot of other people's cow pastures around here. Interesting story. So Will, who works here, we met him because he was actually a viewer, and he reached out to us when we were still in Arkansas and we were in the process of moving here. He reached out and basically at the time was working permitting septic tanks and said, hey, if you have any questions, which we did, we were in the throes of trying to figure out all of that stuff from multiple states away. So we actually reached out to him and talked to him, and he ended up coming out and kind of helping us find the best way to do septic on our property, and we became friends and obviously later hired him. When he saw our announcement video announcing that we were moving here, which by the way, we released that video like 2 years ago this Thursday the 27th, he actually guessed where we were because we just said South Carolina, and he actually guessed the county we were in based on these yellow flowers because we live in Saluda County and a lot of people around here have these yellow flowers in their field. And he and I were talking recently about how a person who does septic permitting probably knows soil better than most in the state because you go around digging so many holes and looking at so much soil. Will does know soil, and he did rightly guess where we were based on these flowers because he recognized what grew in our Saluda County soil. You know, our property has been cattle pasture for a long time, and previously, like, owners had sprayed this with Roundup and stuff like this years ago, and it hadn't been sprayed with anything for a while whenever we got it, at least a handful of years. But as we've done some surveying here and kind of looking, there's definitely some lack in the soil health, and I'm hoping that as we work on building the soil here with sowing, with compost teas, as we get our rotational grazing going and all of that stuff, moving sheep behind cows and then chickens behind them and all of that, my hope is to really see our soil grow. And I'm curious if these yellow flowers are something that's growing because the soil needs help or what. Like, so I'm curious to see if that changes as we really intentionally build soil health. Oh, I just had a sneezing fit. I'm not over here getting emotional about soil, so I do think that it's lovely. One interesting thing that I've noticed is that when we first found this property, so we came here, so we shot that video, and so it's been like 2 years since we came and shot that video. We released it almost 2 years ago exactly. The whole property was covered in thistles, namely down there at the bottom. There were lots and lots of thistles, which thistles often grow because your soil is compacted. A lot of times you see something like that and we think, oh, a thistle is a problem, and a thistle is the kind of thing that a lot of people feel like they need to use something like Roundup to kill it, because they're like, thistle is a problem. But if you take the viewpoint and looking at the earth and what it's doing, and you think everything's good, and you try to consider, like, why is this happening if everything is good? A thistle is usually growing because the soil is compact, because thistles have really, really deep taproots. It's kind of the earth's way of dealing with the compacted soil, bringing in aeration, bringing nutrients up, all of that. And I was actually noticing down in the pasture across from the garden, where we're eventually building the house, we've been rotating chickens there for 1.5 years now. There's no thistle growing that at all. And I was actually just noticing with this pasture, it may be here, but I'm not seeing very much. I see a couple of thistles coming up here on the top of the pasture, which is, the soil is a little different up here. But yeah, like, I'm seeing improvement already in that. And we didn't spray those with anything. We've just been working on, you know, soil. And cows help a lot when it comes to working on soil, especially if they have enough space, which we're hoping to have our pastures. That's high on the list right now, is to get our pastures settled out and have places where we can move our cows onto different pastures, be able to sow them intentionally with grasses, and give them time to rest amply in between. Hey lady, there's Delmer up here with the herd. Look at this little pile of babies. Oh my goodness, Bo is up here scratching on the side-by-side. Oh, Cephas, don't you know you're a massive animal that's scary to people like me? You got poop on your face, bro. So these two are the little Devon heifers right here. They're a week apart. And then back there is Honey's new baby. So he's part red pole, part Devon, and part Jersey. Cute. Little Bosco came up, but I didn't have my camera while he was coming to get his head rubs. Hey girl. This is my favorite of our beef cows. She's so doleful looking. Hey girl. And here's her little heifer, my favorite one. Did you hear me saying someone else was my favorite? So I actually will like routinely come up here and just sit, and long enough for them to all come around me. I don't get out and walk around with the cows, especially I've got like new mamas, I've got the bull out here. It just doesn't feel wise to me, especially when they start all pushing each other around. I'm really glad that I'm in this vehicle and that I can get away from them, but it's been really nice to do it this way because they're just used to me and I can come up around them. And there's my Jersey girl. Which one is that? That's Hope. Hey girl. So this is actually my last one that I have set to calf this year of the Devons. She's real petite, but she's looking wide, so I don't know when she'll drop. One more baby. All right, it's a little bit later in the evening. I had to take Asher to guitar practice, and I'm back now, and I'm gonna peek over here and look in the in-ground garden, show you guys. Look at this. Look at these squash seedlings. I need a little water. It's kind of dry over here. Well, it's not that bad actually. Got little nasturtiums coming up here. Look how pretty those are. These are the Bloody Mary nasturtiums already. Look at the color coming up on the leaves. Isn't that beautiful? So I planted these squash seedlings. I put like a couple of seeds together And sometimes I'll let 2 squash plants grow side by side like this. Here there's 3 growing together, and I'll actually thin at least one of these out. I'll just take some clippers and cut 1, or if I want to take out 2. I'm gonna wait just a couple more days just to make sure everything's fine. You know, seedlings get kind of attacked. Oh, that's grass right there. When you're thinning things out and you're not trying to save the seedlings, if I'm trying to save them, I will like very gingerly like pull them up, keeping the roots intact, and then move them. But squash doesn't like being moved, so I'm just gonna cut them off. But I'm gonna cut them off because if I were to pull one out, there is a risk that you're gonna disturb the roots of the one that you're leaving in, and I don't wanna do that. The number of volunteer plants in this garden is wild. Like right here. This is volunteer. This is just some sort of like grass or something coming up, but these are all zinnias volunteering. Here's a bunch of something. I don't know what this is. I'd have to give it a little bit longer. I know there was celosia growing next to here last year, and that reseeds like crazy. Look at this. That's a basil of some sort. Volunteer plants are such little cheerleaders in gardening. I used to just think this was so hard. That's cinnamon basil. Isn't that crazy? When you consider like a package of seeds is $4 or however much it is, this is probably at least a seed package's worth of cinnamon basil. It's growing all down this walkway because, you know, it just went to seed last year. Everywhere. This whole walkway would be filled with cinnamon basil if I just let it go. Down here, even more. The whole thing. My seedlings were stunted this year because, you know, a number of things. Because you've never arrived. Because even if you've written one of the best-selling gardening books on Amazon, you haven't arrived yet. That's just how it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much success you have. You can still fail in gardening. Let that continue to humble us. But also, you could come out to 2,000 basil seedlings growing in your garden. And let that also humble us. There's an okra. And I'll probably just leave that one because, you know, I'm going to plant okra in this bed. But if I have volunteer okra, that's like the bad mamma jamma okra. Because, you know, if you can save seeds from your garden, they're good. They're gonna be a superior plant for your region because obviously, like, genetically they've adapted to thrive in your region if you save seeds from your healthiest plant and from your best looking fruit. But if you have volunteers that grow, that's even more. Like, those are the survivors of your plant. And I want that. Like, I want the plants that have the strongest will to live, because ultimately those are the things that are going to get over disease easiest and all of that. I mean, theoretically. If nothing else, they really are just great cheerleaders to me that this process works. Seeds want to grow. I'll repeat that a million times. If you've been here very long, you've heard me say it. My sweater's inside out. Truly, gotta keep it humble. But truly, seeds want to grow. This is not rocket science. Yeah, things are gonna go wrong. You're gonna have things fail. You're gonna have plants die. Troubleshoot it, move forward. Worst case scenario, you start over. My seedlings are looking great. Like, they've made a big turnaround. I feel really encouraged to see that. If they hadn't, you know, I got some plants from some friends. I got some other plants, and I would have just started some more and been a little further behind. I don't like it when things go wrong. I don't like it whenever things go sideways, but the beauty of a garden is that it's so full of second chances and third chances and fourth chances and 28th chances. And in this very same season, you can have failure in one place and unforeseen abundance in the other. And while I kind of think that's how life goes, I think that we do well to remind ourselves of that in the garden. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today, for visiting my cows and my seedlings. God bless you. Until next time.